All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. I really don't care what anybody says or thinks about this. In my opinion, these mega conferences in college football are simply not a good idea. I've said it before, and I will continue to say that. And we're about to find that out this weekend in some of these conference championship tilts, as they are going to be a shining example of that. Virginia. I want to talk about the ACC right now. You look at Virginia; they were clearly the top team in the Atlantic Coast Conference all season long. Virginia, they went 7-1 within the ACC. They're 10-2 overall, and of course, they have the best record within that league. They were the only 7-1 team in the ACC. They deserve to be there. They got the bid. Nonetheless, after that, it was simply a head scratching disaster. And I'm not, head scratching a disaster might be a little bit harsh, but nonetheless, I'm going to say it was head scratching, at least the decision or the final decision that came down from the ACC on this, because we had five teams go 6-2 within that league: Miami, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Duke. Okay. And somehow, some way, the ACC found a way to put the 6-2 team in there that had the worst overall record to get to the conference championship game in Duke. Duke went 7-5 overall. SMU was 8-4. Pitt was 8-4. Georgia Tech was 9-3. And then you had Miami, who's sitting there with a record of 10-2. But now the Hurricanes are not going to be participating in a conference championship game. And for the most part, I think Miami is probably going to be left out of the college football playoff altogether because of this. It was a mere technicality as far as why, Duke ended up in the ACC championship game over Miami. And it just leaves you honestly perplexed. I'll tell you like this: we've seen some leagues that will say, you know what, we're going to take our highest ranked teams to get to the college, I mean, to get to our conference championship game, or maybe the teams who have the best overall record to represent our league. That's not what the ACC did. And I think it was a big time mistake because Miami's 10-2. They're currently ranked in the top 12 of the college football playoff. And honestly, they're at number 12. Okay. And Miami, with their win over Pitt on Saturday, maybe, just maybe, they move up. I doubt it. Okay. Because everybody else in front of them took care of their business for the most part. But nonetheless, it's one of those where the ACC used this unique system to break up the jumble. And I think that they would have been better served, okay, just having Miami there. Why? Because you look at it, conference championship games are all about, or should be all about, your best teams in the league. And Miami, to me, overall, was a better team this year than Duke. Just look at the record. It's one of those where you look at the bulk of these championship games, especially when it comes to the power conferences. SEC championship game on Saturday. We've got 11-1 Georgia taking on 10-2 Alabama. Big Ten championship game, a battle of undefeated teams, number 1 and 2 in the college football playoff ranking, to be exact, in Indiana and Ohio State. Okay. Then we got the Big 12 championship game, BYU and Texas Tech. Both are 11-1. Both are ranked currently in the top 12 of the college football playoff rankings. Then there's the ACC. You've got 18th ranked Virginia taking on unranked Duke with a record of 7-5. That game would be a lot more intriguing if we're talking about 18th ranked Virginia taking on 12th ranked Miami. Okay, I think there would be more intrigue. And this is no disrespect to Duke, because Duke, they're there. They're going to have an opportunity to win the league, and they're going to get that automatic bid from the ACC. But nonetheless, I truly do feel that the ACC botched this because they should have been pushing for their best teams to be there. Okay. And it's one of those where we see it time and time again where these schools and these conferences they change the rules along the way. I think ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips should have stepped up and said, "Hey, I'm putting my foot down on this. Out of all of these 6-2 teams, Miami should have been there." But the bottom line is, this is an issue when you have a 17 team league like the ACC currently does. Why? Because there's no way that everybody's going to be playing everybody. Even if the ACC, and they're going from an 8 game conference schedule next season to 9. Okay, it eliminates some of it, but not all of it, because with these big leagues like this, some of these schools are not going to play each other for 3 or 4 years, in spite of the fact that they're playing in the same conference. You look at it, Miami and Duke clearly did not play each other this year. Miami's 2 losses, they lost by 3 at home to Louisville. They lost by 6 on the road to SMU. SMU is one of those teams that did finish 6-2 within the ACC. You look at Duke, their 2 conference losses. They lost by 9 at home to Georgia Tech, another one of those 6-2 teams. And they also lost by 17 at home to Virginia, the Virginia team that's tops in the ACC or was tops in the ACC during the regular season. Aside from that, Duke also lost at home to Illinois. They also lost on the road to Tulane, who has a possibility of winning the American, and then they also lost on the road to Connecticut. It's one of those where I just feel like Miami, in my opinion, and some people are going to say, well, Miami should have taken care of the business in the other games. Absolutely. But nonetheless, I just feel like they just got screwed because of the incompetence of their conference. Because even though that Miami beat Notre Dame to begin this season, Notre Dame's a little bit ahead of them, and I know that they have the same record, 10-2. In the current rankings, Notre Dame is 9, Miami is 12. Notre Dame is not going to drop. Okay, Miami is more than likely going to be on the outside looking in because when you're number 12 in the rankings, you definitely have to factor in the group of 5 representative who's going to be there. So at the end of the day, uh, barring something unforeseen, you can expect the Hurricanes to get bumped off there because you have a slew of teams ahead of them in the rankings right now that are not playing as well this coming weekend, and that would have been an opportunity for Miami to maybe improve themselves. You look at it; they would have if Miami, let's just say for the sake of argument, that Miami did make the ACC championship game, and it's one of those where they if they won the game, they would have gotten the ACC's automatic bid. And then on the flip side, if they lost the game, they're probably done anyway. But nonetheless, Miami's not going to have that opportunity anymore. And if you're the Hurricanes, you probably have to feel disgusted. But aside from the ACC, we are seeing the issues with these mega conferences. You look at the American Conference, it's going to be North Texas and Tulane playing for the conference championship this weekend. Uh, all both of these schools, along with Navy, just went 7-1. But of course, North Texas and Tulane get the nod. They did have better records than Navy. Okay, I talked about the ACC. You look at the Big 12. Okay, so both Texas Tech and BYU went 8-1. Luckily, they faced off. So of course, Texas Tech is the higher seed. We had 2 teams in the Big 10 go undefeated within that league. Oregon went 8-1, and typically that's good enough to be in a conference championship game this year. But again, not the case. You look at the Mountain West Conference, another team with another league with a crazy scenario. Boise State, New Mexico, San Diego State, and UNLV all finished 6-2 within that league. But it's going to be UNLV and Boise State who are getting to the conference championship game, not New Mexico and not San Diego State. So, like I said before, and I will continue to say it again, is having an 18-team Big Ten, a 17-team ACC, as well as a 16-team Big 12 and SEC really worth it? You look at the National Football League as an example. When we have tie-breaking scenarios when it comes down to the postseason, clearly it comes down to the head-to-head first, then your division and conference records. Okay, so if you don't have a head-to-head, break it down with the CFP rankings. Okay, and this is why I think Miami should get the nod over Duke in this scenario. Okay, instead of fixing things, the expanded college football playoff and the expanded conferences, in my opinion, have gone out there and made things worse. And I feel like the ACC has been lacking leadership for the longest time, and this is why another reason why some of these schools are looking to jump ship, because this is a time when Jim Phillips needed to advocate for a Miami. We didn't hear that, and we have not heard that from him loud enough on this situation. The Big 12 Conference Commissioner, he advocates um, for his league. We see it from the Big Ten, we see it from the SEC, but not the ACC. And I think there's other underlying, reasons for this, but this is why some of these schools are looking to jump ship from this league, and this is why some of these schools are going to ultimately jump ship from this league. Again, if I'm Miami, I'd be pissed right now. Okay, and like I said, the ACC simply lacks leadership. Championship weekend is all about having your best teams. This is not a situation where you get to the Super Bowl and maybe a 9-7 team or 9-8 team squeaked in because they still would have had to qualify for the postseason. You have a 10-2 team sitting there in Miami, in my opinion. Okay, you got to push them through. Okay, that's the bottom line. Then you have two ranked teams from your league getting it on. But then instead, you got a ranked team who's in the top 12 for the CFP, who's going to be sitting at home on conference championship weekend. Make it make sense, folks. The ACC got it wrong. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out, to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, and you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.